To kick off October, how about a PG-rated scary movie? Monster House is, in my opinion, a pretty underrated spooky kids movie released in 2006. The animation is CG, but the effed up character design has more in common with the Henry Selick or Tim Burton movie rather than a DreamWorks or Pixar one. Some of the shots are actually super cool, and the use of color adds a great flair to a movie with only 2 mundane locations. It's produced by Amblin, so this has the classic 80s Spielbergian magical realism anchored by a story of love that makes this carry just a little bit more weight than you might expect. I mean, who hasn't gotten creeped out by an abandoned house as a kid and mythologized its malicious mysteries? Life is a mixed bag. Sometimes life can be super fun with a likable group of people, and sometimes it feels too much like Ridley Scott's Alien. Life is funny like that. But like they say, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and it does pull off some great scenes of tension, especially with a cast this good. Plus, it was a fun nerd joke to call this a Venom prequel since it came out the year before and stars a creepy gooey alien. Basically, this movie has some great foreplay, but it isn't busting out any special moves when it comes down to the business. Let's keep it moving. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is a PG-13 adaptation of a beloved 90s book series. Like Goosebumps, I was going in skeptical. However, unlike the 2015 Goosebumps movie, this one killed. Get it? For PG-13 horror, this had some seriously disturbing imagery. The character designs, thanks to the incredible original illustrations by Stephen Gamble, are lovingly recreated with practical prosthetics, unlike the shiny CG of Goosebumps that was instantly dated upon release. The young adult aspect with the teens is actually interesting and natural, unlike the heightened Disney Channel style of Goosebumps. I don't mean to keep shitting on Goosebumps because they were trying to make a different kind of family movie for a younger audience, but Scary Stories being a legitimate scary movie, even for some adults, was just more of what I personally enjoy from my 90s horror adaptations. Directed by Saw, Insidious, and Invisible Man's Lee Whannell, Upgrade stars Logan Marshall Green, and I promise I won't make any Tom Hardy jokes. Somewhat ahead of its time, Upgrade centers on an artificial intelligence that is implemented into the quadriplegic body of LMG's character, giving him back complete mobility and then some, which could be seen as problematic. I do recommend reading some of the many articles and blogs that dive into the problematic side of ableist movies, with sleek, futuristic set design, moody lighting, and not to mention uniquely shot fight scenes. The mise-en-scène had a recipe for success. However, this rewatch made me see that ultimately the movie is style over substance. The characters are one-dimensional, and the performances are kinda choppy. It's a fun B-movie for the dude bros that wanna feel big-brained. Like Monster House, this is another PG spooky movie that aims to be more of a family adventure film with some creepy-looking characters, but it's cute and charming with a unique visual style. It's a pretty simple story with the love for the zombie and ghost genre, but pretty mild even for the biggest bedwetters. The third act goes full end-of-the-world stakes that I wasn't expecting, but also shows the visual capabilities of combining stop-motion with CGI, which they would continue to do in Kubo and the Two Strings and all of their future projects. But my ranking of Leica stop-motion movies would probably go Coraline, Kubo, Paranorman, Box Trolls, and then Missing Link. So this is a middle-of-the-road Leica. So I had to check out the new release, The Creator, from writer and director Gareth Edwards, who also directed Rogue One and the 2014 Godzilla movie. Surprisingly, The Creator was supposedly shot for almost a third of the price as those, and is one of the best looking sci-fi movies of all time. The digital effects were insanely realistic. I mean, it's no 2001 A Space Odyssey, but it's pretty good. Unfortunately, I think the script hurt this one. Like Upgrade, this one just puts on a facade of smartly contemplating the dangers of AI, but ultimately just a vapid use of hot-button keywords between action scenes. It wears its influence of Apocalypse Now and Kurosawa by way of Star Wars on its sleeve, but never really captures the existential dread nor the fun present in either of those influences. Still, I had to show up to theaters to support this original, non-IP driven film. Finally! I've always wanted to see Creature from the Black Lagoon, especially after seeing The Shape of Water in 2017. Fun fact, it's also the one movie not included in my Universal Monster DVD collection. Aside from how scary yet beautiful the creature looks even with the technical limitations of the time, the underwater scenes are clearly visible, shot practically, and create a true sense of fear of what lies in the depths. This was 21 years before Jaws would become the most revered watery horror movie, and 60 to 70 years before we started getting these modern, murky, dry-for-wet CGI garbage films. Hands down my favorite of the Universal monster movies, this one has the most interesting and well-paced plot of the bunch in my opinion. I mean, the human characters are about as memorable as you'd expect for a 1950s horror movie. And yes, I also wondered if, like Shape of Water, he had a cloaca. I don't know why I never watched these movies aside from being 8 years old when this first one was released, but none of my friends ever really talked about them either. This is schlocky 90s/early 2000s fun. Even though there isn't a physical human person hunting them down, the concept of Grim Reaper style serial killer is freaking dope and also completely ridiculous. The acting is pretty rough even for a cheesy horror movie, but it ironically makes these 20-something actors seem more like high schoolers. The kills are great, especially, spoilers, Sean William Scott's death. Definitely gonna check out the rest of the series. Oh boy, strap in. I decided to give the new Haunted Mansion movie a shot because of the stacked cast featuring Lakeith Stanfield, Rosario Dawson, Owen Wilson, and more. Like the previous incarnation starring Eddie Murphy, this is a family-friendly horror comedy that isn't really scary or all that funny. In fact, I'd reckon the Eddie Murphy version is funnier, but I haven't seen it in years, so maybe not. Some of the effects and nods to the Disneyland ride in this 2023 version were really well done, the stretching room scene in particular. Rosario and Lakeith do a great job playing the straight characters, but Owen Wilson is too dialed back, almost phoning it in, which just makes me wish Tiffany Haddish had called in sick. For the parents that need something free on Disney Plus to entertain their kids every Halloween, this isn't a bad choice, and if you're a diehard Disney adult, you'll love it. Beetlejuice is just one of the most entertaining movies ever by Hot Topics CEO Tim Burton. Released in 1988, long before Burton's rise to the king of angsty goth teens, Beetlejuice has everything from German expressionist-inspired sets to stop-motion monsters to the once-in-a-lifetime performance by Michael Keaton. The structure of the film is also very unique from a screenwriting perspective. The title character has glimpses but doesn't make his full appearance until halfway through and only has 17 minutes of screen time total. Overall, there's some amazing world building and a great Twilight Zone kind of story complemented with psychedelic visuals. Shout out to the shrimp hand prop at my work. From Dusk Till Dawn draws on the exploitation films of the 70s combined with the horror action movies of the 80s to make a very fun if only bifurcated movie of the 90s. The first half has classic Tarantino vibes with two criminal brothers cracking jokes in extreme situations, but the second half takes a hard left into a fully supernatural romp. I'm not the biggest fan of when Tarantino acts at his movies, but since his character is so unlikable and mentally deranged, it actually works perfectly here. Plus, spoilers, he dies a pretty gruesome death. Of course, Clooney gives another charming performance, and the Robert Rodriguez over-the-top camera makes this a fun cult classic. Alright everybody, my first Takashi Miike movie. Only 112 left to go. To end the month of horror, I watched the horror thriller Audition, starring Ryo Ishibashi as a man who poses as a film producer looking for a female lead when in reality these women are unknowingly auditioning to be his potential wife. I'd heard this was an intense horror movie, and in that sense, I was a little disappointed. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely an effed up movie in the second half, but the terror mostly comes from a couple moments of gore and creepy situations rather than jump scares. Plus, the first half is almost a straight up rom-com that goes on a little too long. I think if the first half was shortened and got to the obvious twist of a femme fatale quicker, it would be a little more fulfilling. Still, great performances, cinematography, and writing. Definitely recommended for horror fans. Thanks for watching what I watched.